Hi, I'm Kathleen Rasmussen, and I will be reading out of the book Real Life Stories, and we're in chapter 41, and the title is Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I was so depressed and confused when sober, so I tried to stay high all the time. My mother noticed a change in me. She thought I was high on drugs, but I wasn't. I was high on, I was saved at around 9 or 10 years of age. At 13 years old, we moved to a new town and I stopped going to church. Things got worse. I started smoking, doing drugs, and having sex at 14. For the next 5 years, sex, drugs, and rock and roll was my motto. I was depressed and confused when sober, so I tried to stay high. I couldn't deal with reality. My home, my home was not a peaceful place. Being the oldest of 5 children, much responsibility was placed on my shoulders. There was almost no relationship with my father, and I was at war with my mother much of the time. As a teen, I started rebelling against any responsibility toward the family. I didn't even want to get married or have children because of all the problems that were in our family and extended family. At 17 years old, I met a guy I fell head over heels for. His parents were Spirit-filled Christians who really lived the Christian life. Their home was so peaceful and they really seemed to like me. After I had been dating their son for a while, they invited me to church. We would go sometimes out of respect and love for them. I don't remember much about it other than the love all those people showed to me. We dated for 2 years before things got bad. He proposed to me and then changed his mind because his parents weren't in agreement. I was so hurt that I began being unfaithful behind his back. Eventually, he became suspicious and found out. I was losing the one person I had given my whole heart to, and there was nothing I could do to change it or take it back. I felt like all that was left to do was lay down and die. In the meantime, his parents told him to give me a Good News Bible, then read it and pray for God to forgive me for all my sin. I began reading the Bible in the book of Matthew for the very first time in my life. It was amazing because at that time in my life, I hated to read, but I couldn't seem to put it down. My family took me on a vacation for a week, far away from all the problems back home. This helped a lot, and there were no distractions. I spent 3 days repenting. Something inside of me was changing. My younger sisters thought I was becoming nicer. I thought there might be hope of reconciliation with my boyfriend if I did everything he was telling me to do. Of course, that was not the case. Eventually, it was clear that the relationship could not be worked out. Before everything was completely over, he kept wanting something from God called the baptism of the Holy Spirit. I had no idea what that was, but I quickly decided that if he thought it was so great, I wanted it too. One night in my own home, I simply asked God for the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and He gave it to me. I still didn't know exactly what had happened to me or what it meant, but it sure felt good. I had an explosion of love bursting forth from my heart. My mother even noticed it and thought I was high on drugs again. But I wasn't. I was high on Jesus. I experienced many miracles during this time. I no longer had a desire for cigarettes or any kind of drug. Since then, there have been many struggles and trials in my life, but God gave me the power to walk through them with Him. My parents are Christians now, and they are serving the Lord. Through much prayer, many of my family members are Christians now too. If you need peace in your life like I did, call out for help today. Call on the peacemaker.